So why don't we jump right in? So the first question we have here is, what do you love about tracking?
Is it? Yeah. Wow. I mean, I feel like tracking as an explicit practice and way of being is something that has helped me to sort of qualify a a part of my life, part of my life that is part of the fabric of who I am. And it's given language, it's given um, explicit skills and practices um, to to a way that feels inherent in how I show up in the world. And so I think when I think of why do I love tracking, it's part of it is that it feels like water tastes. It feels essential to my being. It feels essential to my connection to the more than human world, to my ancestry, to the lineage that I come from and that we're all a part of. And so um, tracking is something that I love because it puts me into deep relationship with um, everything around me. It encourages and really forces me to think about the stories that are going on around me, the people that are not human, that are living their life and overcoming and loving and communicating. Um, and it's a way for me to engage deeply uh, and to learn not just superficially, um, but to relate and in that way, then be able to really kind of through those relationships, through those stories, be able to dive into some of the, Western conventional uh, observations and um, qualifications that uh, that exist in the literature and in the field guides and in the articles. And so for me, it's a way that I've been able to bridge traditional or you know ways of knowing that feel like they've resided in me for millennia um, into the sort of outlets that exist in science and conservation today. Um, and I think without tracking and before tracking, I I didn't have that pathway, and it created a conduit for me to connect in a way that nothing else has, or I think ever will.
Mic drop. Oh my God, Kareem. Wow.
Something like that.
This is like wow in sign language. That's what I'm gonna be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I feel.
Yeah. Just want to let that settle for a second. Mm. Mm.
I guess one other thing that I would add
Yeah.
is that tracking is experiencing a renaissance and a renewal, and it is thrusting indigenous people and traditional ecological knowledge into the spotlight. Uh, and it's forcing forcing people to acknowledge and accept the profound value um, that this way of knowing and way of being provides, and not just provides because it's not a resource, but um, embodies,
Mm.
presents, and so I think it's an invaluable uh, component to you know the reorganization of power structures and the resistance and the shifting of paradigms and tipping the scales as nature does. So,
Nice. Yeah.
oh man, I have so much more to say. Why do I love tracking? Sounds
Oh,
like a book title.
well, this, if you have more and you feel like we can just keep going, Kareem, because maybe this will be the one of the long ones.
I mean, I think concisely, I will say that tracking has what's the term I'm looking for? It's accessible. It's an accessible entry point. Um, it doesn't require expensive equipment. It just requires community and relationship and mentorship and um, intense observation. And you can do it anywhere. I mean, and always. So I digress there.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Kareem. That's delightful and not surprising at all to me that you have that much to offer to that question.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
So
you.
without any expectations of what you're gonna have for this next one, what do sky's the limit here. What do you bring into the field with you?
Um, hey, are we on the ones that we highlighted?
These are the intro questions.
These are the intro questions. Thank you. Great.
Yep,
Okay, good. Thank you.
of course. Yeah, so maybe, and I'll just,
I didn't look at that prior, so
okay,
we're spot on. I
okay,
just was checking in with you. Great.
yes,
What do I bring into the field with me?
yeah. This is like, you could do bullet points and, like,
Yeah.
however you want to do it.
I mean, for me, I've never been like for me, um, I'm kind of I'm always in the mode that I could be in the field at any moment. So, I literally have a bag with me at all times that has water filtration system, first aid, you know, resources from Sam Splint to tourniquets to, uh, you know, I have, um, I have water at all times. I have extra clothes. I bring um, always have some kind of a resource like a field guide or two. Um, I bring a sense of wonder and a sense of curiosity. Um, and I, um, what I leave behind is the requirement to know, and I leave behind expectations, and I invite um, surprises and learning um, at every turn. Um, but yeah, I mean, some of the hard things, always, yeah, backpack, extra clothes, water, ways to uh, filter and water sources, um, some communication devices. Yeah, I'm just kind of always in my mindset as guide and caretaker, and yeah, that's always there for me.
Cool, legit. I think somewhere in this we'll certainly recognize your main guide reality
Yeah,
and that or status, and that will certainly inform a lot of
yeah, and my walking staff, and
yes.
my walking staff and sharp tools. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. I've always got a few sharp tools on me. Axe, fixed blade, yeah, cordage. Okay, we can keep going. So, what's next?
Cool. Right on. Got it. Okay. So next, favorite field guide or reference, tracking adjacent or tracking related. Yeah.
Oh man, I always get this one. I have. Is it Mary Holland?
Yes. Yeah.
I was just talking to someone about this, that it was like, if I think if there was one book that was like, oh, you can only bring one book, I think it would probably be Naturally Curious by Mary Holland. Uh, and I mean, there are incredible tracking specific books that would that are technical, the obvious ones, Mammal Tracking Signs, and all of L. Brock's work, and um, one for me that has been foundational and transformative is Tracking in the Art of Seeing by Paul Resendez. Um, so I think if I had to pick like a technical book, it would be Mammal Tracks and Signs. But I think just if it was like, oh no, you only get one, I think it would be Naturally Curious by Mary Holland. It's so holistic, it's so connected, it's so intriguing. I think that every turn I'm learning something that's just found and inspiring and honestly fun. Yeah,
Beautiful.
and there's so many good books.
Yeah, that's a trick question, isn't it?
I
One,
know,
name
yeah,
one. That's a tricky one.
it is.
Cool. Um, so I'm looking at this. The next one is advice for new trackers, and it kind of may be designed to be like,
Mhm.
again, sort of in the order of one-liners, like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, I think walk the trail together. Don't go it alone. And there's wisdom in community. Seek mentors, um, and alleviate yourself of ego and the need to know, capital K. Just be. Let it be. That was my mantra on the last eval. Was just let it be. Just go so far. Just let it be. Yeah. Be curious.
Mm.
I think those are the ABCs.
Right.
Always be curious.
Oh, nice. I love it. Beautiful. All right. Thank you, Kareem. All right, our final of the intro questions. Is that what we called them? I think so.
Sure.
Yeah, intro questions. So the final one
Great.
there is, let me see, where am I? Name a favorite type of habitat where you like to track and a bit about why.
Ooh. Uh, I mean, I guess sort of just I'm in the Northeast. I'm in, you know, unceded Wabanaki homelands and Hammock, Mount Desert Islands, Maine, and what feels like my natural setting is like in mixed forests. Yeah, just where I live.
Mm.
Woodland areas, forested ecosystems. Um, and the why I think is partly because it's not easy. Like there's nothing easy about tracking, but I think partly because it really requires um, that I tune in and notice the subtleties because it would be so easy to see nothing. Um, and for much of my life, I didn't see what was going on out here. Um, and so it's really just shifted my perspective in immensely. There's not a lot of like ideal substrate, perfect mud, track traps. It's sign heavy, um, and you really got to tune in.
Hmm. Kareem. Just did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. This how's this feeling to you, Kareem?
Feels great. Feels
Okay.
refreshing.
Yeah.
Feels therapeutic.
Nice.
I'm getting a
Yay.
lot out of it.
Good. I'm so glad. I'm so happy. Yeah, I'm sitting here and recording this, I feel like this is the way we should always do this. We should always be in conversation for this particular aspect of the newsletter. This should be a conversation.
I would tend to agree, and I'm glad that we leaned this way. We decided.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
yeah,
Yeah.
feels good.
All right. So the next questions, Cream, we don't have to go in any particular order. And
Sure.
um, I'll read them to you again, maybe. And then if there's one that's like, yeah, I wanted that one right now.
Great.
So
Yeah.
what advice would you give to people who are just beginning their tracking journey? What does tracking in connection to the more than human world have to teach us about resilience? How do you think we could get tracking to more people? How do we fold more people in? How have you made tracking a practice in your life? What are other ways you wish it could be more of a practice?
Yeah.
And then what does tracking and connection? Oh, I already did that one. Okay. I did that. Okay. And I think I missed one. What is your relationship to field guides?
Yeah.
So,
You know, um, what was the first one about
yeah. What advice would you give to people who are
advice?
just beginning their tracking journey?
Well, so actually, I think I'll start with my relationship to field guides.
Great.
Um, I think field guides are invaluable resources. I feel like they are um, uh, sort of yeah, they feel like elders. I think that they're magic. Uh, they just books in general blow my mind that I'm able to receive wisdom from, you know, uh, through the portal of different temporal planes, and that mentors can come to me at any time just by opening a book. Uh, and I also think that uh, I I'm cautious to not allow them to become a crutch, or to for them to become a too loud of a voice, uh, that is drowning out my eternal wisdom. And so I feel like my relationship is um, complex. I think early on they uh I think they're required. Like I think for me they feel required. I think they've helped to uh, you know um, they've helped me to advance my skills in tracking and naturalist observation exponentially. Um, and also they were a burden in my early explorations, partly because I don't have a conventional educational background in environmental studies, environmental science, wildlife biology, ecology, and the language and jargon that exists in field guides was a barrier instead of a bridge. And that was intimidating, but for me was fortunately not such a deterrent that I gave in. Um, but what they did do is encourage me to do some introspective searching and realize that familiarity and understanding happens through relationship and story and experience. And so the field guides, you know, they it it made me just get out and track, and seek mentors and just get out with the community and get the dirt time in, um, and through workshops and certifications and the evaluation process in this tracker conservation methods that are so rooted in indigenous ways of knowing and ways of being, um, where folks are uh, on the land and moving and sharing and communicating, um, and learning together. Those those experiences, and answering questions, without without hand holding, with guidance, just putting what I have to the test. Yeah, those experiences and the feedback, the dialogue after, then gave me uh, it gave me the sort of the foundational awareness to be able to go back into the field guides and start to parse out and make sense of the you know the language in there, the intricacies of the jargon, and better understand why and how field guides uh, are laid out. Yeah, and then use the field guides more effectively. So it's been a cyclical and a systematic, um, there's a web of connection to field guides. Yeah, a multi-dimensional relationship. And I think that leads me to just thinking about what advice do I have for folks who are just beginning their tracking journey. Um, the first thing that comes to mind for me is that you're not actually just beginning your tracking journey. Uh, you're just realizing that there is a quantified and qualified, you know, science that exists and practice that exists um, that you can tap into to help you fully express the the human way of being. Um, and I think we are trackers in our core. And I think about the stories that Louis Liebenberg talks about and that others have echoed and originated. When we're in the grocery store, we're tracking. I need to get to the apples. I know that most grocery stores have the apples with the other produce. And so uh, typically the produce is going to be uh, on the right side, not on the left side where all those uh, registers are, but where most consumers walk in the door, they turn to the right, they get to the produce section. I know that the the fresh uh, non-processed goods are going to be on the perimeter, and that the processed goods are going to be in the aisles in the center or next to the household items. That those things are tracking. So I think, yeah, I think it just comes down to, for me, like advice would be um always be curious, uh acknowledge and accept our ego driven ways of being, and also, you know, give ourselves permission to flow through that. Yeah, and let it be. Just be where we are, um, and be okay with that. Expect not to know, um, and find learning in everything that you do. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Um, so other questions that we still have here are, um, how do you think we could get tracking to more people? How do we fold more people in? Um, how do you make track
Yeah.
a practice? Do you want to do that one?
Yeah, I think those two go together for me in a lot of ways
Yeah.
because um yeah, say the second part, the second question again.
Yeah. So how do you think we could get tracking to more people? And how do we fold more people in?
Yeah, and then the next one after that was
Oh, the next one after that was, how have you made tracking a practice in your life? What are other ways you wish it could be more of a practice?
yeah, I I a term that has surfaced for me is omni tracking, and I think of the prefix omni, omnidirectional, just omnipresent. Um, I think there's tracking in everything, uh, and I feel that, and so I think mm, I've made it a practice in my. I'm able to make it more of a practice in my life by um, just always being tracking and thinking about how multifaceted it is that, you know, thinking of it from a holistic perspective, um, tracking the wind, tracking the weather, tracking animal movements, tracking phenology, and the seasons, and tracking my family and my coworkers, and tracking, you know, micro expressions and microaggressions, and tracking the political climate, and tracking um, the progression of our empire, um, as well as the obvious components of tracking and tracking sign ID and um, you know um, identification and observation and shelling and finding and and then I think a little bit more concretely, I have refused to um, conform, you know, and I have taken a difficult path, which has not been without obstacles to um, to get to a place where tracking and naturalist observation and study and exploration is now interwoven in the fabric of my career, my academic aspirations, my friendships and community groups. Um, and so I think that's been integral in making a bigger part of my life and something that is a constant and not on the peripheral. Um, and then also concretely, it's just there's always opportunities to be tracking. So it's something now that I can't turn off. Um, when I step out, I'm listening to bird song, and I'm feeling the wind on my neck, and judging the direction of the sun, and just always, always aware, always noticing, always there, and always curious. And then that makes me think of, well, how do I, how do we get more people into tracking? Um, for me, in my experience, the work that I do is my form of activism and my form of resistance and my form of community organization and development, and uplifting folks around me. And I say that because I think it comes down to, if we're in a position to create opportunities for others and to extend our hand, um, back, forward, left and right, up and down, and and connect people and organize and um, create programs that serve underserved populations, marginalized populations, um, you know, folks that are just not involved yet. Uh, I should, and we should, and that's one way. Um, being intentional about uh, directing and allocating resources and energy and experience, uh, and mentorship toward folks who are not here yet. And just having the intention that, we are bridge builders and not gatekeepers. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Something like
Hmm. Hmm. All right, Kareem. We have one left. Um, and that question was the one we are like, that's a big one. So maybe it's good it's here and you can consider whether or not you want to dive in. But it's, what does tracking and connection to the more than human world have to teach us about resilience?
well, I feel like this exchange and sort of interaction has informed me that it has to do with placing us in the ecology, the ecosystem, the community that is nature. And tracking helps us to navigate a path toward uh, realignment uh, with the nature of the self, and to place us back into the community, uh, alongside our kin. And and in that way, I feel like it is impossible not to develop greater empathy for uh, the rest of us who are without these human conveniences and creature comforts that are living these ancient ways of being that have, um, you know, sustained them for millennia. Uh, it forces us to acknowledge the brilliance and the genius that is, uh, the the deer in the freezing rain, um, taking advantage of um, the resonant heat from the soil under the conifer, from the scales on the osprey's feet that allow it to grip onto the slippery fish, uh, you know, all of the physiological, psychological, behavioral, social adaptations, and so on that are more than human can um, have have co have developed over the years. That stuff comes into brilliant focus. Uh, and it informs us that we have within us a a resilience. We're here. We're we're thousands of years, millions of years into our evolution, um, and we're an expression of of success and of failure and of challenge and obstacle and triumph. And whether or not I want to acknowledge it and believe it, it is, and that resides within me. And that fact and the awareness of that truth, um, it's hard to ignore. um, and tracking lights the trail and um, blazes the path toward that awareness and acknowledgement and self-actualization. I wonder if that makes sense.
I think it will. I think it makes beautiful sense, Kareem. I mean, it's a gift.